Tonight on NewsVision, we will have an update on the condition of UM star football player Cameron Kinchens, who suffered a concerning injury on the field last week.
Look at me, keep your eyes open, breathe, you okay.
Plus, Hurricane Lee is set to make landfall in the Northeast this weekend. We will bring you the latest on the storm. And later on, we head off campus to check on a housing nightmare that has affected hundreds of students.
Living in a hotel is obviously not what we're paying for. We're paying for an apartment with a whole kitchen.
These stories and a lot more on tonight's NewsVision. It starts right now.
Hello and welcome to the first NewsVision show of the semester. I'm Andrew Klein.
And I'm Regina Potenza. Thank you for joining us.
The Miami Hurricanes football season is well underway as Miami defeated Texas A&M on Saturday.
But the game finished with an injury to safety Cameron Kinchens.
Sports anchor Wyatt Coltman is live at Hard Rock Stadium to share more on what happened. Wyatt, how is Cam doing and how will this injury affect the team?
Guys leading the Miami Hurricanes can prove as a challenge for almost any American which steps into the program. But for Cameron Kinchens, one tackle here on the grounds at Hard Rock Stadium Saturday night meant that his teammates look to him for his role as his leadership, as they never look away from that each week.
And Wigman able to complete it to Anaya Smith.
Late on Saturday, the Hurricanes were on their way to their first win against an SEC team in more than a decade, right until their eyes turned away from Texas A&M and on to junior safety Cameron Kinchens.
The guy who has galvanized this team to try to find greater success. And he took a big hit at the end of the last play.
The former Miami Northwestern star couldn't get up from the field. His teammates and coaches gathered around him and the stadium went silent. But co-safety and friend James Williams made sure Kinchens would not leave the silent setting without a few words of assurance.
Look at me, keep your eyes open, breathe, you okay. It's okay, he was just telling me he wanted to finish. I know you want to finish, but just breathe. Understand where you at and just breathe.
In the fourth quarter on Saturday, Kinchens made a tackle and suffered from an injury that looked to affect his head and neck area. The Miami native was rushed to Jackson Memorial's Trauma Center, but according to ESPN's live broadcast, Kinchens kept his consciousness and ability to speak. But only worry spread across Miami and college football.
You got parents in the stands, you got teammates. Football is unforgiving at times. I don't think that's the case here. I'm, again, very hopeful. I don't like to get ahead of myself, but I like to think positive and think that everything is trending in the right direction.
Last year, during his sophomore season, Kinchens tied for the most interceptions in college football's Power 5 conferences with 6. But the scare kept the Hurricanes focused on not only playing for wins, but playing for each other.
He's the heart and soul of the team. He really brings it. He really want to win. He really want to change the culture here. Doesn't like losing. That's one guy I love playing next to. You know why? Because he pushed me. He not only pushed me, he pushed everybody around me to be great.
Cam and James, especially this last week, they practiced the right way. Those guys make all the checks. Cam's always been an energy guy for us, the way he practices, the effort he puts into it mentally and physically.
Now, head coach Mario Cristobal expects Kinchens to heal at what he calls a normal rate, given that he certainly passed his procedures and his medical test this past week. And for Cam Kinchens, it's important for him not only on the field but off the field. He and his mom actually posed throwing up the U for a social media post, as Kinchens is expected to make a full recovery and return to the practice fields in the coming weeks. Reporting live from Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida, Wyatt Coltman, UMTV.
Hunter Biden was indicted on federal gun charges Thursday. Special counsel David Weiss is charging President Joe Biden's son in connection with the handgun he purchased in 2018. The case was originally going to be dismissed without charges under a plea deal, but that agreement with prosecutors fell apart after a federal judge's review this summer. The charges against Hunter Biden involvement making false statements on a federal firearms form and illegal possession of a weapon. Prosecutors allege the president's son bought the firearm while he was under the influence of crack cocaine. Biden's defense attorney is arguing that the plea deal should have prevented the charges from being filed.
And the investigation into Hunter is affecting his father, President Biden. On Tuesday, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. The inquiry will be led by the House's Judiciary Committee, the Oversight Committee, and the Ways and Means Committee. The inquiry comes after months of investigation into Hunter Biden and his foreign business affairs. Republicans allege that President Biden has profited from his son's business deals during his time as vice president from 2009 to 2017. Currently, no evidence of any wrongdoing against Biden has been brought against him. But some officials are worried that the inquiry process itself will hurt his chance for re-election.
I haven't seen anybody do too well after an impeachment process. It didn't do well for us in '98 with President Clinton.
Donald Trump was impeached twice and ended up losing the 2020 election. The results of the inquiry have not been released yet, but when they are, NewsVision will have all the details.
Utah Republican Senator Mitt Romney has announced his retirement from the U.S. Senate after the current term. In a video he released announcing his plans, Romney criticized both President Biden and former President Trump. The announcement comes in the midst of a shift in the United States Senate. This past year, 6 new Republicans were elected to the Senate. They will now lose one of their most prominent voices in Romney.
I considered my age and the fact that at the end of a second term I would be in my mid-80s, and I think it's time for guys like me to get out of the way and have people in the next generation step forward.
Romney has made headlines in the past 12 months as the only Republican who voted to convict Donald Trump, and was the first senator in history to convict a president of their own party. His term in the Senate is set to end in 2025.
Well, turning our attention over to the weather now, Hurricane Lee is continuing its path north in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes, meteorologist Charlotte Carl joins us now with details on Hurricane Lee. Charlotte, what is this storm going to hit?
Yeah, so right now Hurricane Lee is tracking north in the Atlantic, but I want to start out with Hurricane Margot, currently in the eastern part of the Atlantic. Category 1 storm, maximum sustained winds of 75 miles an hour. Lee right now, Category 2 storm, spinning off the Carolinas, many miles, nothing for them to worry about, tracking to the north it is maximum sustained winds of 100 miles an hour. So let's take a look at its cone. Remember, when we look at the cone, this is where the center of the storm is likely to track. So it is very possible that all of the Northeast will see impacts from Lee, likely to make impact somewhere in between Nova Scotia and Maine. So there's one other area we're watching in the tropics, Invest 97L. It's traveling over some warm water, so it's definitely something for us to keep our eye on. Traveling to the west-northwest, and it is tracking slowly. That's a tropical wave off of the western coast of Africa, and we are about to have our next named storm. Back to y'all at the desk.
Last night in Miami Beach, the city commissioners approved a new proposal on how to deal with the growing homeless population in the city. According to Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust, there are more than 150 homeless people living on the streets of Miami Beach. Now, one new proposal by the Miami Beach City Commission will offer homeless people living in encampments the option to go to a shelter or face arrest. Officials say the new proposal is aimed at keeping the residents safe.
And the reason why we've created this ordinance at this point in time is that we have a certain population that is just living in the parks, and we get the violent crime reports every day. And when you see that another woman is raped or somebody is stabbed, tourists harassed.
With the proposal, if a homeless person refuses to go to the shelter, they will be arrested and brought to court where they face prosecution and pre-diversionary measures. But with no homeless shelters in the city of Miami Beach, and with long lines to get into shelters elsewhere, many Miami Beach residents are more worried about the homeless population than ever before.
The city of Miami Beach has 0 shelter spaces because it has no homeless shelters. And so this offer of shelter in this context is really a draconian message. If you are homeless, then you need to get out of town or be arrested.
They are not treating people with dignity and respect that they're accorded as a human being. They're basically trying to make criminals out of people who are not criminals and who have very few choices and opportunities for housing.
The city of Miami Beach recently invested $2 million to create 45 single occupancy units in Miami-Dade homeless shelters, but no plans to build shelters on Miami Beach have been shared so far.
The one thing about this measure that I support is that I think it is balanced. It's not criminalizing and arresting people because they're homeless. We cannot stop somebody from encamping in our public spaces unless we have housing for them.
Miami Beach Commission has agreed to fund 53 new beds in Miami homeless shelters in hopes to get people off the streets after dark. The proposal has been sent to the Miami-Dade Board of Commissioners for approval. and will need approval from both the Miami-Dade Homeless Trust Board as well as the full Miami-Dade County Board before it can become a law.
Miami-Dade County officials broke ground on the third and final phase of the Underline project. The project aims to make it easier for people to walk and bike safely around town. The Underline is expected to stretch 10 miles below the Metro Rail from Dadeland South Metro Rail to downtown Miami. The first phase is already open, and the second one is scheduled to be open by the end of the year. Several state and city representatives, including District 7 County Commissioner Raquel Reglado, were at the groundbreaking ceremony for the third phase of the project today. The Underline project is expected to be completed sometime in 2026.
Time for a short break now, but don't go anywhere because we will tell you how the Miami housing crisis is affecting hundreds of UM students when NewsVision returns.
Owen, let's talk for a second.
Hi, Owen. Come on in.
When you came into my life, it was a whirlwind.
I just can't do it.
It'll come to you.
It won't.
We had a lot to learn about each other. A lot. Hey, looks good. Things were changing so quickly. We didn't know what the future would hold. Any of us. I just wish you felt more at home now. But we knew you would always be a part of it. Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I am so proud to call you my son.
After a hard day of classes, most students just want to go home and relax. But those who sign up to live in the Cloisters apartment complex can't go home. They have to go to a hotel. Our reporter Harvey Duplock is live at the Cloisters with more. Harvey, what can you tell us?
Andrew, I can tell you that the apartments behind me are completely empty. Students were supposed to move in a month ago and they've still been paying rent, which is more than $2,000 per bedroom. The exact prices are not public, but residents have told me they're paying $2,800 a month for a one bedroom and $2,300 a month per bed for a two bedroom. Bedrooms they can't even use because of constant construction delays. Sabrina Greenberg is a junior at the University of Miami, and instead of living in her brand new apartment at the Cloisters Miami, she's living in a single room at Thesis Hotel Miami.
Living in a hotel is obviously not what we're paying for. We're paying for an apartment with a whole kitchen.
The almost 300 residents of the Cloisters Miami, which is an apartment complex and the adjacent lot of townhomes located on Southwest 57th Avenue, have been paying rent since August 18th, even though the apartments are still under construction.
I was planning on going down to Miami August 17th so I could be there on the 18th ready for move-in.
And even though Sabrina was ready to move in, the apartments were not. Residents were told move-in had been delayed from August 18th to September 2nd and 3rd, which turned out to be true, but only for the townhomes.
We moved into the Cloisters on September 2nd, which was this last Saturday, and it was amazing. We were all so excited to move in, get it all done finally after the long wait.
Those living in the apartments, however, were delayed again.
But now my move-in is expected to be September 9th.
Then the apartments were delayed yet another time, this time until September 15th, nearly a whole month after their leases started. And living in a hotel for this long has not been easy.
I don't feel like I'm at school. I feel like I'm kind of on vacation. Having like just one room kind of reminds me of like my dorm room, like, oh, I have to do everything in here.
Thankfully, Landmark Properties, the company that owns the Cloisters, are giving their residents $50 a day for food, paying for the hotel fees, and giving them laundry money. Finally, I wanted to find out what was causing these pushbacks, so I asked, and Landmark emailed us back saying the change in dates was caused by unforeseen construction delays. I then asked if we could talk about this on camera and was told they don't have a spokesperson. But then I managed to get this email sent to residents, which says they have encountered specific issues with the county sewer approval process, so they didn't get their certificate of occupancy. Residents are supposed to move in tomorrow, but as you can see, there is still a lot of work to be done. These are supposed to be students' backyards, but there is not a single blade of grass yet to be grown. There is debris everywhere, fences, branches, concrete all over the place, and the exterior painting is yet to be completed. So whether or not the residents will be able to move in tomorrow is yet to be seen, but what we do know is that if there is another delay, the residents will have the opportunity to cancel their lease and find another place to live. So reporting live from the Cloisters, Miami, for UMTV, I'm Harvey Duplock.
Thank you, Harvey. Here on campus, Dining Services debuted a brand new takeout system in the residential dining halls. It's called Aussie, and it is a sustainable initiative aimed at reducing the carbon footprint at Aussie was debuted this academic year at the Mahoney, Pearson, and Hecht Stanford dining halls, but students could buy the reusable containers for just $6, fill it with plenty of fresh food options, and then return the containers to the machines outside of each dining hall. After that, students receive a small token to trade in for a brand new container. student organizations Eco Agency and Green U have been working since last February to implement the Aussie system on campus. The organizations hope that initiatives like these will help make a beneficial impact, sustainable, and the environment.
And speaking of dining on campus, just 2 years after opening the Miami Chicken Company, the food court at the University of Miami has a new restaurant. This time, the menu focuses on inclusivity as well as flavor. Billy Brightman has the story.
One location at the University of Miami food court has seen 3 different restaurants in the last 4 years. What was once Burger 305, then Miami Chicken Company, is now Halal Shack, a New York street food inspired restaurant with Middle Eastern and Mediterranean flavors. As the name suggests, all of their food is certified to a halal diet, a diet that many followers of Islam follow. Halal Shack has only been open for 1 month, but many students are loving the new option.
So I kind of was happy seeing that there's a halal spot because we guys cannot go and eat around because most of places here do not sell halal stuff. So I was really happy.
At the same time, another group of students is disappointed to see yet another option on campus that they cannot eat. The Halal Shack website describes halal as kosher but with cheese. But to those who follow a kosher diet, the differences are much deeper than that.
I think in halal they have a similar process where they slaughter the animal, but it's not the same way. It's not under the same guidelines and restrictions that it is for Jews.
has one kosher option on campus, the Corner Deli. With such limited options, these students feel stuck.
Definitely feels restrictive. I mean, if you're on the meal plan here, which I was my freshman year, the Corner Deli is really all you can eat.
While they are grateful to see more options for other students, having their dietary restrictions overlooked yet again is frustrating. The director for retail operations for the university's dining program says any dining option is possible on campus so long as the students want it.
Your voice matters, and we'd love to hear your opinion because a group of students made the decision pretty much to get the Halal Shack here. So we want everybody to realize that your voice does matter, your opinion does count.
Billy Brightman, UMTV.
Thank you, Billy. Although it feels like the year has just started, midterms are right around the corner. UM's Counseling Center has recognized how students might be feeling and on Wednesday hosted an event to help. Members of the Counseling Outreach Peer Education Organization, better known as COPE, went around campus to teach University Village residents how to successfully deal with academic stress this semester. Ambassadors offered tips and tricks such as self-care and resources for students feeling academic pressure. Residents walked away with new knowledge and a couple of items to remind them throughout the year.
How does someone overcome a barrier to academic success? Things like maybe organizing a planner, making sure you have a clean workspace, things like that can really help you kind of develop the best mindset in order to be academically successful.
And after students learned new ways from ambassadors on how to manage the rest of the semester, they were rewarded with food from the University of Miami's newest addition to on-campus dining, Halal Shack.
Well, that sounds like a great organization, Regina. And speaking of coping, I heard we're going to have to cope with some bad weather this weekend.
Yes, well, our meteorologist Charlotte Carl is back to share this weekend's forecast. Charlotte?
Yes, we do have some showers in the forecast, and it's actually raining outside right now. As we take a live look at our radar, we see those storms popping up around Miami-Dade County, and they are moving out quickly, so let's track them out throughout the rest of this evening. 7 o'clock, they start to continue to push offshore. We're free and clear by midnight tonight. And then it's a very similar story tomorrow. We see the showers build along the sea breeze boundary along the coast. They build inland. 7:30, once again, we have quick downpours. They move out fast as well. Then on Saturday, it's a similar story. It's a copy and paste forecast throughout this weekend. So be sure that you stay aware of that. Keep your umbrellas at the ready because those rain chances are staying high through the weekend and the beginning of next week. In addition to the rain chances being high, our heat indices are going to be high. Remember, those are your actual temperatures with the humidity taken into account. We're going to be in the mid-90s throughout the weekend, so make sure you're drinking that water, taking breaks inside if you're spending extended periods of time outside. And talk about outside, if you're headed out to the beach this weekend, do keep in mind those pop-up afternoon showers, in addition to the fact that we are likely to be seeing some rip currents as a result of Hurricane Lee continuing to push up towards the north. So here is a look at your 7-day forecast here in the Miami region. Upper 80s for your high temperatures with those chance of showers every day through the middle of next week.
Thank you, Charlotte. A massive flood hit Libya earlier this week after Cyclone Daniel ripped through the nation, causing 2 dams to collapse. So far, more than 11,000 people have been reported dead, and time is running out to rescue the remaining survivors. Search and rescue crews from around the world are working tirelessly to recover the dead bodies from the floods. But now, the United Nations is saying that most of these casualties could have been avoided if the country had proper emergency management systems in place.
If they would have been a normally operating meteorological service, they could have issued the warnings, and also the emergency management authorities would have been able to carry out evacuation of the people.
The World Meteorological Organization has tried to work with the Libyan government to improve the emergency systems, but the security makes it difficult to get inside the country to make the necessary improvements. Some estimates put the final death toll from the floods at more than 20,000 people.
Still ahead on NewsVision, I'll have the latest on UM and Miami sports. Stay with us.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches, ready? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports. I'm Manny Nacarado. The Hurricanes faced off against number 23 ranked Texas A&M on Saturday. Let's take a look at those highlights. Hurricanes coming out of the tunnel, ready to face their first-ranked opponent of the season. Tyler Van Dyke drops back in a little bit of a hole here, finds Xavier Restrepo in the seam, and has some room to run, and A&M finally brings him down for a big gain. Miami looking to get on the board for the first time in the game. Tyler Van Dyke fakes the handoff and finds Colby Young free and clear in the end zone. The sophomore making himself known in the game. Miami's first score here. Now let's take a look. Tyler Van Dyke dropping back, rolling right. No one's open, but yes, here we go. Find Jacoby Young in the back of the end zone. Jacoby George. Now, early in the third quarter, Miami up 21-20. Bashard Smith on a kick return, opening, and there's nobody gonna catch him. He's gonna go all the way. 98-yard touchdown for Bashard Smith. The Hurricanes are gonna win this one 48-33. The Miami Hurricanes playing tonight against Bethune-Cookman at home. Switching from the field to the court, Coco Gauff has become the youngest women's U.S. Open winner at 19 years old. The Florida native faced number 2 ranked woman in the world, Aryna Sabalenka, in the final at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Golf surged to a 2-6, 6-3, and 6-2 victory, winning all 3 sets. Coco wins her first Grand Slam title and solidifies herself in the tennis record books. Moving on to the NFL, the Dolphins played the Chargers in Week 1 on Sunday. Tua Tagovailoa had himself a day, completing 28 passes for 466 yards, which is 4th most in yards thrown in Week 1 of the NFL, with 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill benefiting from this action, coming up with 215 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. It was a back-and-forth game, but the Dolphins would have the chance to win the game with this pass from Tua to Tyreek in the back of the end zone. The Dolphins would end up taking this one with a final score of 36-34. The Fins will face off against the Pats this Sunday night. Well, that's all I have in sports for the day. Now back to you, Andrew.
Well, thank you very much, Manny. And still ahead on NewsVision, UM is taking the initiative to spread body positivity. We'll tell you how when NewsVision returns.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's what white people think. You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Thank you for staying with NewsVision. The 27th edition of the Infinito Brazilian Film Festival has returned to Miami, and Miami moviegoers visited the Silver Spot Cinema in downtown Miami to get a taste of what Brazilian cinema has to offer. The festival is the largest Brazilian cinema event hosted outside of Brazil, and the 2023 edition is split between virtual screenings online and theatrical screenings held across 2 weeks in New York and Miami. The Miami portion includes nightly screenings held at the Silver Spot Cinema in downtown Miami and the O Cinema in South Beach. The festival is part of the Infinito Film Circuit, which brings the best of Brazilian cinema to different cities around the world.
I think the Brazilian Film Festival gives the opportunity to people to learn more about our productions. People are kind of tired to see just Hollywood films, and it's an opportunity for them, for all kinds of people to enjoy new films.
Based in 1997 at the Cosford Cinema at the University of Miami campus. Since then, it has expanded to multiple theaters across Miami and Miami Beach. In-person screenings at the Silver Spot Cinema will continue nightly through Saturday the 16th, and virtual screenings will be available until the end of the month at inff.online.
2 University of Miami students are bringing an eating disorder prevention and body acceptance program to UM Panhellenic. It's called The Body Project. On Tuesday, a Q&A was held to introduce sorority members to the program. The Body Project consists of a 4-week program where 6 to 10 participants engage in a series of behavioral, verbal, and written activities about the negative effects of unrealistic body standards.
Not only do I hope that it helps young women in terms of feeling better about their bodies, feeling more confident in general, I hope that it brings the sororities in the Panhellenic community closer, because I think as a community we should be uplifting each other, not only because we're all in sororities, but because we are all young women.
Is currently only being offered to UM sorority members, but the hope is that it can eventually lead to the rest of students.
Taylor Swift has made history during this year's MTV Music Video Awards. The leader of the Swifties won 9 VMA Awards in just one night, breaking the record for the most VMA Awards won at a single ceremony. Taylor Swift was also the most nominated artist this year with 11 nominations, and when the event was over, she became the person with the second most VMA awards in history. All this comes as T-Swizzle is in the midst of her just massive The Eras Tour, which is an all-stadium tour that spans across 5 continents and has 146 dates.
Well, Regina, I think we need to go back, edit the script, because you said leader of the Swifties, but I didn't win anything.
Well, maybe you're not a real Swiftie anyway. And that's all we have for this week's edition of NewsVision.
Thank you for joining us. Tune in again, same time next week. Have a good night.